Good. Claim.
So I'm from Meta company and blockchain also. So basically, the community will be better on the development side because a lot of work on Bitcoin, which is the main framework in C#. Yeah, but the title. And blockchain.
Okay. We all know now.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. Welcome to Tokyo Bitcoin Meetup Group special event. Tonight, we have this controversial topic, Blocksize. Now, as you may know, Bitcoin's current capacity is 7 transactions per second. Satoshi did not actually set the limit, but Satoshi didn't neither said it can. And one thing for sure, 2 things for sure is that although this is a long-standing debate for a long time now, one thing for sure is that Bitcoin is discussing negative interest policies behind closed doors. I can hear you. Do you agree? Okay. Now, before I pass the mic to the panel discussion, maybe I will hand my microphone to moderator, technical advisor of Big Bank Japan, Mr. Jonathan Underwood.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me? All right. So thank you all for coming. Tonight we're going to debate about scalability in Bitcoin. I'm probably much, which is good because I'm a little bit tired tonight. So basically, we have 4 panelists here, 2 of which are, I guess, what you would call pro-Bitcoin core, and 2 of them which are what you would call pro-classic. If someone here doesn't know the difference between core and classic, Bitcoin core is the version of Bitcoin which stems from the original Bitcoin software written by the creator Satoshi Nakamoto. Whereas Bitcoin Classic is a new project which was created from Bitcoin Core by people who believe that the limit placed on the size of a single block in the Bitcoin blockchain should be raised soon. And so they are planning to change that using the Classic software. So when we're talking about Classic versus Core, just remember that Classic means larger blocks, and Core means the exact same as it is right now, so keeping the status quo. So basically, we're going to start off the debate, I guess. It doesn't look like anyone else has a mic, So I guess I'm gonna have to get up and hand it over. Anywho, so I will go ahead and start off the debate with a question, which I would like to pose to all four of you. And you can go ahead and introduce yourselves as you get the mic. And the question is, if you had to choose one, which are you for, Bitcoin Core or Bitcoin Classic, and why do you feel that way?
So I guess we'll start off with Aaron.
Okay.
I'm Aaron Blazine. I'm the original author and the CEO of Bread Wallet. Bread Wallet is a SPV Bitcoin wallet connects directly to the Bitcoin network. So we have come out in support of the project as we increase as quickly as possible, as quickly as can be done practically and safely, in order to maintain the existing network behavior that the network has had since its creation, where the limit was higher than the demand for block space. So we would like to be very conservative, and we think that the safest and most conservative option when we're playing with billions of dollars worth of value is to try to keep the network behavior the same as it has been as much as possible. And the way to do that is to keep the limit above the demand for block space, as it has been up until just very recently.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Jerry Chan from WallStreetTechnologies.com. So you can please support WallStreetTechnologies.com. I primarily a developer, although I haven't actually developed much for Bitcoin specifically. So in Bitcoin space, I would classify myself as a pro skeptic and a long time sort of lurker in terms of technology. Important as Adam just said, I also believe that Classic represents a strengthening of the way the network can adopt and change. I think one of the things that I believe that which is directly core developers, all core developers I believe, is that the network needs to change and adapt in order to evolve and survive in the long run. Where the opposing view is that the network must stay exactly the way it is in order to be preserved. And so I think both parties want Bitcoin to succeed in the long run. I just believe that that can be achieved better through economic needs, namely by more people getting involved in Bitcoin, Bitcoin being very open, and Bitcoin being able to adapt. So besides everything Adam just said, I also believe in block size and all that stuff. But that's one angle which drives me.
Okay, I am Oishi, and I changed the name to Pitstone from the Pitstone. Oh yeah, this is the translation English. Also, I am actually for core because I am not the technical person. I am basically blogger, and so I am looking this situation by the meaning of the governance. Governance is important for this situation. So I am basically I am 2 megabytes block size is okay. I am for 2 megabytes. That is that 2 megabytes not equal to the class. So the classic is the change of the developers, change of the concept of the Bitcoin. So after 2 megabytes, they I don't know they increase the website or I don't know, but they will be increasing more and more. So they have I am not certain the vision of the long time vision of the classic. Yes, this time I thought the 2 megabytes is okay. That is the way to change, how to change the 2 megabytes is the point. I am the 4, the how to change the 2 megabytes and figure it is reasonable.
Hi, I'm Nicolas Dorier. So I'm CTO of Metaco. We're using the Bitcoin blockchain for transmitting other assets than Bitcoin, basically. And CTO of Blockchain Hub, which meant to be the main company that can uh, bring blockchain information for companies and people trying to learn about more what it is. I got more from my work on Bitcoin, which is the main framework that people use if they are using Microsoft technologies for building Bitcoin products, and also for a book I wrote that you can find on m.bitcoin.media. So my position on this debate is, first I'd like to reframe a little bit what Jonathan said during the introduction. He said that basically there is two group of people, one that want to preserve the status quo and the other one that want to improve the scaling by raising the limits. Actually, I think it was more last year. The debates really improved since then. Right now, we talk about whether we keep 1 megabyte capacity. And I use the word capacity, not size, because it's two different concepts that we might explain later. But basically now, two sides agree to increase the capacity. They agree. One is what Oishi-san talked very briefly, that is called secret, which permit to increase the capacity slowly and without forcing the user or on the network to update to the new version of Bitcoin. So it's like a smooth increase that is relatively painless and has lots of different technical advantages, but I won't go into that too much. And then, once it's done, doing the block size increase, that will be more harder because everybody will need to increase the block, update Bitcoin for them. So the question is not really, do we preserve the status quo versus do we change Bitcoin? The question is, how do we do it? Do we take a safe road and then do the first step a bit later, or do we try to force all the network to upgrade on a short schedule, even if for now the majority of the network does not agree with it?
Okay, thank you very much. So
Yeah, sorry guys for interruption. More of our schedule tonight is we will do the debate, maybe half an hour from here, 45 minutes, depending on how we go. And after that, we organic dairy from one of the top organic dairy shop, and we will move around. And tonight's sponsor is space is provided with the courtesy of HD Amara-san. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And special thanks and donation from Bread White for the drinks. Bread White. and what else? Yeah, that's all.
all right. So continuing on, my first question is to Nicola and Aaron. You are both businesses that use the quickly started to reach capacity, and most recently after it has kind of started to hit the capacity. Have you seen any actual like quantitative changes in user experience, changes in like, I don't know if you have some sort of support thing, you hear a lot more support requests from users. I would like to hear both of you talk about your services and how they have changed in recent months, or even if they've stayed the same, then tell me why you think that is so.
Right. Yeah, we have seen changes. The most obvious is that the fee, the Bitcoin transaction fee that you now pay for a very bulk transaction is about 5 times higher than it was last year at the time. And so that's unfortunate. That's a worse user experience. Also, confirmation times now are, we try to find the right balance, and we have to try to keep the fee as low as possible. We have to sacrifice on a little bit on how fast and reliable the transaction confirmations are. So right now we're trying to balance it, but it used to be that you would almost get every transaction included in the next block or maybe the second next block. And now it's 3, sometimes 4, and it's not as reliable. Like maybe in an unfortunate case, if there's a lot of transactions that all happen at once, maybe it can take several hours for a transaction to confirm. In worst cases, it's not normal, but it can happen in worst case. But we are having to make a choice between charging more for fees for all our users and
So after the debate, we will have a quick world first preview of Red Wallet new version on Android. So that's the
Okay, Nicolas.
Interesting question because there has been change. So it was, I think, 1 year ago, it was in June, there was the first big spam attack on the Bitcoin network that tried to send lots of transactions to hit the block size limits. And the goal was for people to understand what would happen if the blocks were full. Actually, nobody knew what would happen. It was useful because most of services were not ready to handle that. Every services had fixed fees. And when the limit broke, then lots of services started to break. So there was lots of angry people about that, which is kind of normal. But services and Red Wallet also did very good job to adapt and have what we call dynamic fees, where services try to find the right fee to get confirmed fast. So then there was a second spam attack, which I think was in August. Again, it made a little noise, but a little less. And there was one other one in September that I forgot the date because it was not so much a big deal. And there was another one, I think 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago, that the only existence was basically on Reddit. Because if you use the wallet like now, like Copay, like Red Wallet, or Mycelium, the fees are adapted. So you pay more fees, but if you pay 5 cents instead of 1 cent, psychologically speaking, nothing really changed. So it's not clear. I don't think it's so much a problem right now. The second adaptation I've seen of the markets with this block limit is, so I cannot disclose which exchange exactly, but there was an exchange that asked me to find a solution, that wanted to find a solution to have less fees when their people are there money from them. from their exchange. And so the way they manage to do that is in one Bitcoin transaction, make batching all the withdrawal in one Bitcoin transaction, so the fees are less. So what we are starting to see now is that the upper layer on top of the Bitcoin protocol, so the wallets, for example, the exchange, starts to adapt to use the blockchain more efficiently. And I think to do something
like I said, there are other solutions which are not Lightning. I mean, I love Lightning. I think in the long run, Lightning is great. So I'm not, but it's not totally there yet. They have things that didn't work out. There are solutions like extreme thin blocks, which will reduce the block size that needs to be transmitted by 90%. So imagine instead of sending a 1 megabyte block, you need to send 100 kilobytes. That is already in production. Bitcoin Unlimited is using it. So if everybody just went over to Bitcoin Unlimited by now, and actually Classic is adopting it, then it'll be the next release. So although Core doesn't want to adopt extreme thin blocks because they they think the relay network is better. Sorry, this is getting too technical for people not technical. But if we just basically upgraded to extreme thin blocks, you're only sending 100 kilobytes, which means you can literally increase the block size to 10 megabyte blocks, and it wouldn't actually change too much of the traffic, the amount of traffic that's sent across the network. It's just utilizing the bandwidth better because what you're doing is you're not actually retransmitting transactions. Because as you know, transactions flow through the network. And so every node is going to get every transaction at least once. Everybody has to, because you're collecting all the transactions from everybody in the network. But then when a block is found, that block is also sent to you from the network. So, but what does that block contain? It's containing almost 99% of the same transactions you already have in your memory. So the idea of these thin blocks, there's weak blocks, there's thin blocks and extreme thin blocks, IBLTs, all of these different solutions are to reduce the actual transmission at block finding time, such that you don't actually need a spike of bandwidth required when a block is found on a miner. And if we just did that, I mean, I don't even think we can even be arguing about a block size limit anymore, at least between 1 and 2 megabytes, at least for sure. So I just want to say that. So which are available.
Okay. All right. My next question is to all of you, and anyone who has a strong opinion can go ahead and try to steal the mic or do whatever you want. My question is one of the hottest topics or the hottest reasons given for and against raising the block size limit is one of the properties of Bitcoin that I think everyone here can agree is probably one of the main reasons why Bitcoin is such a revolutionary idea, and that is censorship resistance. Now, on the one hand, people say that if we have blocks that are too big, mining will consolidate, which will create centralization, a risk for censorship. On the other hand, there are people who say that adding higher level layer networks that aren't thought through well enough could create problems for centralization, could create problems for censorship. So I just want to know exactly you all have censorship resistance in pertaining to the block size. I do want to touch on the fact that Jerry mentioned, people in Nicaragua and third world countries. I think that people in third world countries, obviously they need to have cheap transactions just because of the fact that their cost of living is so than us in the just like America and Japan. But I think another reason why they need Bitcoin is because of the censorship resistance. Because if they have I just want to know what you guys think about censorship resistance and how it pertains to the block size.
I am in full agreement that censorship resistance is, and decentralization, which is what a lot of people term they use for achieve censorship resistance, is incredibly important. It's one of the most important properties, I think, for money, for people to be able to use store of value in the way that they want to. And that larger block ultimately are, I think it's a false dichotomy to say that that having larger blocks is necessary to reduce the decentralization. There are lots of new ways and technologies that are currently being developed in order to reduce the cost of validating your transactions. So that's the main thing. People are concerned that if blocks are too big, then the cost of running a full node, the cost of validating the transactions will go up. And then if it costs more, fewer people will do it, and fewer people will have access to the ability to independently verify the transactions happening on the Bitcoin network. But there are lots of ways to reduce the cost of validating transactions, even with much larger block sizes. So, for instance, with SegWit, which we very much like SegWit, but it's going to take a long time for it to reduce usage of the blockchain. So, but it has some great features like allowing people to do fraud proofs and other ways that you can independently verify your transactions fully while having very low cost. One example.
So well, I think that's Aaron made a good point where there is lots of improvement that will be possible once SegWit is done. For example, the UTXO commitments for that for existing as a soft form, that I mean without any more controversy that we're seeing with the size. There need to be at least SegWit and then other new development that will happen that will allow such to fix such kind of problem. The thing is, right now, we don't have the technology yet. We know there is solution to explore. We know that it's kind of possible. We don't know when it can be done. So the point is that can we buy a little some time by bumping the capacity easily like Blocksize and SegWit both? And I think, yes, it's a right way to do, and then see what this other technology will do. Another thing I want to know, not about the second layer technology that comes that are created like networks, is that those second layer solutions will always be less costly than using directly the blockchain. The reason is every time you send one transaction on the blockchain, you are wasting resources on all the Bitcoin node, on all the bandwidth of everybody, the storage of everybody. And this has some kind of cost. For example, in Japan, we have the creator of Nikkei wallets. So Nikkei wallet was a web wallet that was very cool, but they needed to close because the cost of the database was starting to get high and not enough money coming into the company. And the reason is that the blockchain, by being big, started to cost less to services to build upon. So it can stop innovation if it grows very, very, very quickly. I agree that the long-term vision, if possible, will be to have no block size, and we might reach this stage. Right now, we cannot. Maybe in 2 years, maybe 3 years, I don't know. This is a goal that right now we can't. And even if that happens, solution like Lightning Network, when you send a transaction, the nice thing is that the data that will be consumed to make this transaction possible is always only dependent on the people between. If Bob pay Alice, this payment will go through along intermediaries, and it's only this intermediary that will be impacted by your transaction, not the whole network, only 5 or 6 people on the way. So in any case, even if we have an unlimited block size, I think that those second layer solution will be important.
I have not so much technical information about the censorship and block size, but just as a personal experience, I live in Vietnam usually. So Vietnam, the internet is slow with also 2 megabytes ADSL rating. And the propagation speed, propagation time is slow. So this is you know, the 21 computers is that like small computers with actually Raspberry Pi. That is expensive, $500 for more. So I want to try to make the same one with the Raspberry Pi. I bought the Raspberry Pi and make it. So the point is so the block size, the network speed is I live in Vietnam and on my Raspberry Pi and work with use. So this is affordable block size. I don't know that number of the block size. I don't know, but it's my personal opinion that is if you need more servers or the fiber connected, it's synaptic decentralized. So just a Raspberry Pi with the 2 megabytes ADSL and in Vietnam, it works fine. I think it is fine.
Actually, I think Bitcoin Unlimited works on Raspberry Pi. There's a sort of post that World Classic. Basically, the 2 megabytes. We're still very much in the realm of Raspberry Pi. On the topic of censorship and decentralization, I guess I have like 2 points. One, which is I like to talk about decentralization in terms of cost, because most people always talk about we need more decentralization, but the only thing that they can really say about that is like we should have more nodes. Okay, but what if I just spin up 100 nodes on AWS? Does that mean we're more decentralized? Not really. But so how do you count it? You can't really count it. So how you can count it though? Well, how I count it is in terms of costs of corrupting the network. So we want to increase the cost it takes to bribe the network to do something against what the rate of people in the network would like happen to them. We want it to be very expensive for you to suppress and to be deceitful on the network. And in order to do that, it's not always the case more nodes or more centralized mining is more safe, which is counterintuitive. Because the best example I can quote is, imagine, like most people will say, if you have 100,000 nodes, and the nodes are like that laptop recording right now, like a MacBook Air, 100,000 MacBook Airs running on the network, or 10 mining companies, 5 of which are in China. Which one's more decentralized? Well, most people will say, oh, of course, 100,000 MacBook Airs around the world. Well, yeah, decentralized in terms of maybe CPUs running, but I could guarantee you that if I was the NSA, if I was a 3 acronymed U.S. agency, I can guarantee you I could destroy the network that's running on 100,000 MacBook Airs, because all I have to do is bribe these little 16-year-old kids. Like, give them $100, give them $1,000, make it a bounty. You know, shut off your mining or block any addresses, any transaction with this address, and you can claim a bounty on a Bitcoin address, or I'll send you free money. I mean, Bitcoin's money after all. It means I can pay to bribe people on the internet. People have tried to pay for assassinations on the internet, right? So I can definitely bribe people to turn off or filter the transactions. And these people are just individual geeky kids in their basement, who the hell do they care if if they're filtering stuff? I mean, there's only so many libertarians in the world who care about censorship. The rest of the people in the world don't give a crap. They'll just like, oh, give me $500. Yeah, I'll just run this version, which is, you tell me it's faster, but really it's censored. Right? Whereas, if you have 10 mining companies, which have revenue streams, investors, capital sunk costs in mining equipment, electricity costs daily. If they were to jeopardize their business, they would destroy their entire reputation and their entire livelihood as a mining operation. So it's much harder to bribe these companies in terms of money, right? Yes, it's easier to put them all into a room and try to get them to sign a Satoshi agreement, but to get them to actually agree to do something against their business model is a lot harder. So I would argue that that's more secure of a network, even though it may not be decentralized in the pure sense of things. And then I guess the last thing is, the second thing I have to say was more about, I guess, the general theme. Whereas we have people who think that it's better to nanny or babysit the network. We have central planners versus free marketists. I'm obviously a free marketist. And you have other people who have a valid view, which is like, if the network is in trouble, let's help out these people in the network because we want to preserve the network. If these miners, if this demographic is going to be pinched, like they're going to lose money and go bankrupt, then let's change the network and change the economics to help them. Like a wallet, which is like Yankee Wallet, which had to go out of business. But yeah, maybe they were just an inefficient business. Some core developers were suggesting actually changing the difficulty of the halving this July, such that some miners in China were complaining, or maybe they were in China, I should say that, but some miners were saying they would have to turn off their mining equipment because when the reward goes from 25 Bitcoins per block to 12.5, they can't afford to mine anymore, so they're going to turn off some machines. And the core developers, because they want to, help Bitcoin, preserve the security of the network, said, let's help them, let's reduce the difficulty, change Bitcoin core code to do this. And people like me were like, are you insane? I mean, do they not realize that that's exactly, you're playing Janet Yellen of the Fed Reserve Board right there. You are bailing out banks, except not banks, miners. But kind of the same thing in Bitcoin, right? So I think it's a dangerous slippery slope if we give into central planning. I think we should always err on the side of letting the market work itself out, even if business have to go bankrupt. I think things will sort itself out.
I would say for that, decentralization is like pornography. You don't know what it is, but you can describe it when you say it. So, saying that, the day where your transaction will need to be signed by some institution, by some country for being validated by miners, this can be done in a protocol. This means that it doesn't take the agreement of users to implement that kind of stuff. So right now we don't have. I think we are safe right now, but we don't know until when. We don't have our line about that. The second point I want to talk about is that we cannot picture developers or central bankers because every time they make a change, like for example the difficulty change during the halving that will come, such change cannot pass if user does not agree with it. Actually, the problem of 2 megabytes is not because core developer does not agree, it's because large part of the community does not agree to bump to 2 megabytes now. Maybe they will, maybe in 1 year, I don't know, but right now they don't. And even if core developers with miners try to find a deal with Classic also, they try all to find a deal to bump the capacity with some solution. If user doesn't want to update for some reason, they won't. And we cannot say core developers are in position of central backup because they cannot force anybody to update their software. So that's why they are trying to prevent any controversy.
The simple observation, in fact, the prices, after Hong Kong agreement, the prices go up. After the Armstrong cost prices down. And then after the second Amazon cost prices drop and below the 400. So the people, the investor, the value on the agreement, some agreement, anything is okay, anything is okay, but the agreement is important. So this is, I think the Hong Kong agreement is not enough. So the 2 megabytes copies, the 1 year after, it is too late, I think. But it's, we get some kind of agreement. So we can, if you compromise, this is not the good, not the best compromise, but that is some compromise. So the people compromise it, so the prices go up. People are having this no problem, so the prices go double or triple, I think. So, anyways, this is probably not technical problem. So this is the kind of how to make agreement. I think that is the main reason why I am for the core of agreements.
Okay. So I'm just wondering about how much time do we have left? 10 minutes? Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and I'll make this the last question, and you guys can talk until we do the demo for Breadwall. Okay. All right, so for the last question, I just want to ask each one of you, and you guys can kind of take it from there. If you had absolute dictatorship role of the minds and thought processes of every user and node owner on the network, and you could get them to implement anything that you wanted, and it would just exist tomorrow. No one develops it, it just exists. It could be Lightning Network, it could be some new network idea or something, or it could just be raising the block size. Whatever you could do, what would you do, why, and how do you think that would help the Bitcoin network?
Well, this is an interesting question. So to say that I wouldn't want to control everyone's month. I just want to put that out.
Nice answer. Nice answer.
If you can, one of the interesting things about Bitcoin is that it is difficult to upgrade the network with new features because you have to get everyone to agree. And one of the classic analogies is it's like trying to redesign and build an airplane while it's flying. It's hard. So if we could land the airplane and just rebuild it from the ground up, knowing everything that we know now, we could fix a lot of design flaws in the network. Yeah, so we could have Schnorr signatures instead of ECDSA, which are smaller and more efficient, and we could, for instance, little annoying things like the fact that in some places it's little endian and other places it's big endian, and it's just kind of random which one Satoshi chose to use. Lots of ways that we could make it a lot cleaner and a lot better. So yeah, that would be, for instance, segregated witness, which we're going to be implementing as a soft fork. That could be done much cleaner as a hard fork, but hard forks are hard. So we're not probably going to do that. But it would be better if we could get everybody to just agree to it right away.
Sounds good.
I believe we have an answer already. I'm still thinking.
It's difficult to say, but I want next day a censorship The confidence transaction.
Confidence transaction.
Yes.
I heard the confidence transaction with the blocks. So we have some the megabyte or some affordable blocks with the confidence transaction. And also the base problem is the mining and the centralization. So look at the Ethereum, they try to make the working POS test that we have. I don't know how the test that is over there or not, but I think that is right. If the POS is working very well, so I am somehow considering the Bitcoin might be post for a very long time. I don't know, but it's just
So the question really depends on whether I want to stay a dictator or if I want to do my stuff and then prevent anyone to be one. So in the first case, if I want to stay a dictator, I will just create Visa. It will work. I mean, they are the best solution to handle lots of transactions per second on big data center, no problem. I mean, not just Bitcoin at all. Now, if I want to prevent myself to have power in the future, then it's different question. So, like Aaron said, if tomorrow I code, it will be SegWit as an output with new header, for example. I'm sure that core developer would have lots and lots of idea of what to implement. For example, confidential transaction to break to save the fungibility of the network. Fraud proof, because once fraud proof is implemented, it will become very hard to change the system after, and it's a feature to do that kind of stuff. And so when I've done that, I will just throw the key so nobody can be detector anymore. So yeah, the question is whether I want to stay detector or if I want to do my stuff and just throw the keys.
I'd add that probably every dictator in the world today or in history has started off saying exactly what you just said, but when it came time to throw away the keys, they kept them until the senators.
But once you're into implement, it's fine.
True. Okay, so tough question. All right, if I was dictator, if I could change anything in the network and everybody's minds, what would it be? I would not want to. Okay, so it's the opposite. I wouldn't want to force upon people a way of thinking. What I would like to force upon them is to wake them up to think for themselves. And I'm not saying this just because it sounds like a flowery hippie, like, oh yay, kumbaya, the world's gonna be great if everybody just starts thinking for themselves. I honestly think that not enough people in Bitcoin do think about the network and the trustlessness aspect of Bitcoin. We still see Bitcoin is just a technology, and you see the evidence in a lot of core devs think of it as a technological innovation. But it is just as important that it is an economic and socio-economic innovation. In so far as that it is a trustless system, but people, all of us in this room, are born into government, born into life in this world under trustful systems. We learn to trust the police. We learn to trust the government. We learn to trust our parents. I mean, that level, we probably don't want to violate that trust. But we are inherently living in a trustful society. But Bitcoin allows us to live trustlessly. Yet, just because the technology is there, people do not automatically recognize the value and then use it to its full utility. For example, look at the problem with mining centralization. Why do all the miners only listen to the core devs? So like they worship them almost to a point where it's a cult of personality almost. I mean, it's not the Kim Jong-un level, but I mean, there are people who should be venerated or overly venerated because of their experience. Not saying they're not skilled. They are very skilled. They've done very good work. But that does not mean that you as a miner do not need to think for yourself. The instant you stop thinking for yourself and being critical and being skeptical of what everybody says to you, even if it's coming from an expert voice, then you just defeated the whole point of Bitcoin, right? You just delegated your trust to some other agency. This agency may be a dev, a developer. It may be the technology because you never looked at the code yourself. But you just taken that trust that you put into the police or the government and you put it somewhere else. And so what have we gained? Nothing. So I would like to, if I could brainwash people to do something, I would brainwash them not to be brainwashed. To wake them all up and say, like, look, don't trust anything. Read it yourself. If you don't understand it, then find someone you do trust because of our existing social trust networks, right? I trust my brother, right? I trust him enough that if he tells me the code does this, then I probably trust him. We can't get rid of trust because we're human beings. And so that's what I would do. And how would this help Bitcoin? I think to borrow from Aaron. To borrow from Aaron's analogy of the rebuilding the car while it's moving, or upgrading the engine while it's moving, I would like people to realize, and a lot of people don't right now, that Bitcoin is probably, my analogy, it's more like a rocket ship flying to the moon, right? So we're launched, right? You start with the crypto punks, you know, the geeky guys, they build the rocket ship, nobody cares what they're doing. Nobody knows what rocket scientists do, right? But they build a rocket, and then you fill it full of libertarians and anarchists and political ideologists, and they're the fuel, right? They start the ignition, and the engine starts, and the rocket starts lifting up, and we're shooting up into space, and we're getting into the stratosphere. And I think what people don't realize is that you can't stop here. If you stop here, we'll take a pause, we'll wait till the fee market develops, we'll wait a year, the fuel runs out, gravity kicks in, and you come crashing back into the Pacific Ocean. We have to reach orbital velocity, right? Breakaway velocity. If Bitcoin doesn't reach breakaway velocity, we're dead. It's worth nothing. Don't forget, it's not worth, it really isn't worth $400 right now. I mean, seriously, it's not. Right now, the amount of business that's going on in Bitcoin is probably worth $50. I mean, miners will start losing money at 150. So around there, that's the bottom, right? It's not worth 400. It's speculative value. We're burning rocket fuel right now. We're burning it so we can get into escape velocity, into space. And if we don't get into space, then it might be a theory. It might be something else, but because people will just lose interest. So I think that's what I want people to realize. And it's really going to take people to start doubting everything they hear in order for them to do that.
I want to take a small moment. I like your analogy with rocket, but frankly speaking, when we have a debate between the 2 megabyte block size and some top player like Lightning Network that can radical change the limits in a radical station. It's like if you're stressing for the rockets to go 10 meters higher very quickly, when some other solution like the Lightning Network is like the rocket won't go to the moon anymore. It will go to the sun. You know, it's the 2 megabyte block is very petty compared to what can be achieved.
I'm not talking
and
about
I
technology.
agree with you that more people need to think about themselves. And I think that's Des made a very good job to explain the technical aspects. So there is a Bitcoin Core website where you can see lots of information with it. My book. There is Andrea's book also. So there is information, and I think people are starting to learn about themselves.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop you guys there. We're pretty much done here. So if you guys would like to talk about this issue longer after when we're all eating and stuff like that, these guys will still be here and you can talk to them individually. But for now, we're going to start with Bread Wallet's presentation on their new product line.
Is it difficult to the Tokyo consensus now?
we need a big thing to sign.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So how about we agree to disagree?
Yes. Okay. I'll sign that.
All right. So I'll go ahead and I'll hand over this mic to Adam, and I guess we can give this mic to Aaron, or is he going to give the presentation by himself? Or?
Okay, so thank you very much for the panel.
Thank you very much.
either you guys can, maybe you guys, would you want to comment?
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to Big
So, if you want to, let's log on to unique interact. So how do I, is there a way that I can show this on the screen maybe? Or?
Okay.
I think Ken's gonna give you a tip that might accomplish that.
He's got the MacBook here. It's not a MacBook, it's the Chromebook. Oh, but wait, if it's a Chromebook, what are they?
This is your iPhone. And the second one.
What about HDMI?
Oh,
No, this is, this is HDMI. It's Android. This is for iPhone.
We're gonna try some.
It's connected to the wrong one.
What a good looking guy. We're going to use an iPhone to watch an Android.
Nice. Okay, let's get the phone over here. The cable's pretty long, so.
Okay. Phone now.
Here, I'll do that.
All right. So,
It's,
so why don't you tell everybody what we have here?
okay, so this is the Android version of Bread Wallet that had a lot of people asking us to produce. So there's a lot of work that went into it. So you may or may not know that Bread Wallet is an SPV wallet. It connects directly to the Bitcoin network. So we had to rewrite a lot of the difficult code that connects to the Bitcoin network in a language for the Android device. So we rewrote the whole thing in the C language, which we can use on Android using something called JNI, and we can also use on the iPhone. And so weird code. This is there it goes. Okay, yeah. So
you don't need to look.
okay,
There we go.
so this is Bread Wallet running on an Android phone, and it's connected to the Bitcoin network. And,
Sure, I will scan your code using my Red Wallet.
Yeah.
And I will send you 500 bits. Here you go.
oh, it just I tapped it, but it showed up there. So here, look at the transaction history. And then I think you see that it received the 500 bits there. So that showed up. That was over the Bitcoin network, and the code is all there. And this is an early beta version. We'll be releasing the full version over the next several weeks. So.
And you have something else to do?
Yes. So the other thing that we're going to be doing is through several different exchange partners in different jurisdictions and in different places around the world, enabling people to purchase Bitcoin directly in Bread Wallet. So right now, the only way that you can use Bread Wallet is if you already have some Bitcoin. Then you can send and receive it, but you can't acquire Bitcoin if you don't already have some using other payment methods like a bank transfer or something like that. So, did you want to? Oh, let's see. Okay.
I'll show everything I need.
You have to scroll down.
Oh, I see.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see here. So this is also a beta version that will be releasing this feature soon in the coming weeks. We have a buy Bitcoin button here. So depending on your location in the world, we'll have a different payment. This one is the first one that we'll have implemented, which is cash in the US, and then we're looking with exchange partners for bank transfer in Japan, as well as many places around the world that will be adding new jurisdictions and new payment methods all the time over the coming months. So here I have cash, and it's hard to put it in San Francisco because locations in Japan yet. But what you will do is you'll select a location. We'll have 20,000 different locations in the United States where you can go and pay cash, and then you get a PIN code from the cashier, and then you can redeem your PIN code, and the Bitcoin will come directly into your Bread Wallet. So actually, I have one here. I don't know if I can. Oh no, I can't paste here.
So what Aaron's doing is he's pretending that we just walked into a store in San Francisco and paid some US dollars in cash to get a PIN code that you're going to see entered here. This is a live PIN code, so this transaction is going to go through our partner back in the US, and they're going to send the Bitcoin from their servers directly to Aaron's Bread Wallet.
So if there's a PIN number, I can redeem the PIN code. 2 cents. But we had a bunch of test ones for 2 cents. So this redeemed it from the exchange partner, and they sent the Bitcoin directly into the Bread Wallet. So here's the transaction that was received. And this allows us to have an open source wallet that we're not a money services business. We're not regulated, and you can still, send and receive any amount to anyone, anytime, anywhere, instantly, as with the way that the Bitcoin network should work. But then our exchange partners will follow all the regulations of the jurisdiction where they're licensed to operate for exchanging, one of the legacy payment systems like dollars or yen. These old-fashioned, things that people have who don't have value into Bitcoin. Yeah.
The redemption for the the exchange partners, are they merchant processors like Blocksize, or are they?
Some of them might be, right? Like some exchanges have merchant processing, but others don't. Our partner in the US for cash for Bitcoin, they've got, like Aaron said, about 20,000 locations now. They're about to add 40 or 50,000 more locations in the US. So like every Walgreens or CVS or Rite Aid, these are common stores in the US, you'd be able to go into the cash and get the PIN code. We're talking to other partners here and in other jurisdictions. Some of them happen to be merchant processors, some of them aren't. But like in the US, this technology, this exchange, they basically tapped into existing payment networks that already existed. So these point of sale terminals that are sitting at these stores already support this kind of thing. And the individual that you walk up to in the store probably doesn't know what Bitcoin is. So inside of Bread Wallet, it literally says, here's what you say to the person when you give them the cash, right? But we just get that information from our partner. So cash first, and then we're looking at, yeah, a lot of other payment methods, actually. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Thank you. Any other questions?
What is the business strategy? How to get the revenue more?
So when many exchanges, not so much in Japan, but in other countries, they charge a fee when you do when you exchange your local currency for Bitcoin, and then we have a business relationship with each of our exchange partners where we get a part of the fee that they charge for sending them a customer.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. That's a good question.
Yeah, sure. I see. Well, if you think about it, exchanging a local currency for Bitcoin is a financial service. So we have a plan to add over time other financial services that people pay a fee for using. Other than just sending and receiving Bitcoin, which will always be, we'll never charge more than the standard Bitcoin network fee, which doesn't go to us. But other financial services, people make fees on, and you can integrate those just like what banks do.
So how about the business, the business side of the Bread Wallet is for B2C. So how does this is how business is the business?
Well, so for instance, maybe merchants, maybe they would like to use a version of Bread Wallet that is designed for merchant point of sale so that they can receive Bitcoin payments, for instance. So that would be an example of a B2B type business where we're selling Bread Wallet software or making available Bread Wallet software to merchants. So that's the most obvious one.
Thank you very much. So yeah, this is it for the panel discussion, and please give us one more round of hands for Bread Wallet and all the panel. Thank you very much, and please help us to move the table back to the meeting room.
Sure.
While we prepare food and drinks. And thank you very much.